Yeah, we're excited. It was 2 weeks of preseason now in the books, and now it's time to get going. So overall, pretty happy with where the group is at. I think we came in, fitter than probably just as fit as I hoped they would be, and which allowed us to kind of concentrate on some other stuff. But as you heard, we've got 29 players on our roster, 15 of them returning, and that means 14 new faces. So kind of a lot. That's kind of a big incoming class between freshmen and transfers. And so for us to try to get everyone integrated in and get to know each other, it's kind of been the priority for our preseason. But I think overall we're in a good place. We had the one exhibition against Tennessee, and then we've had a couple inter squad scrimmages, and last night was our last inter squad scrimmage before we get going this week versus Jacksonville State.
All right, if you need to ask a question, please raise your hand. All right, Joey, we're gonna let you get things started.
Hey, Coach, a long time no see. I hope you're doing well. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe your first season at Alabama, Morel Van Dongen, who was just in the Olympics, was a senior that year. Talk about, the importance of having, and then Reina Reyes, of course, was not in the Olympics, but plays for the Mexican national team. Talk about the importance of having those players on an international scale, and how does that impact recruiting and promoting of the Alabama brand?
Yeah. So unfortunately, I never had the opportunity to coach Merrill. So Merrill was on her way out as I was on my way in. So we kind of crossed paths, or didn't cross paths there. But having just international players, we've had Thelia Jimenez Delgado, who's played in a couple World Cups. Obviously Reina Reyes, who's a regular with the Mexican national team right now. I think it's awesome. I think it's great for the team, for them to be able to bring experience back to the current Bama roster, and kind of be able to share their experiences and what they've learned and taken from the international game. I think that's huge. And then from a recruiting standpoint, I think it shows that we're able to attract good international players, as well as help. Prior to Reina joining us, I know she was with the youth teams, but she didn't get her first call up to the Mexican full national team until she was with us for a couple seasons. So I think it shows that we're able to help develop players' games as well.
All right, WVUA, go ahead. All right, Katie, go ahead.
Hey, Wes. How much? Am I echoing?
Yes,
okay.
You're good.
Okay. How much did last year, having the COVID spring season 2, as well with the fall, how much did that change kind of preseason preparations? And obviously, you said y'all are bringing in a lot of new people, but kind of how did that change the way you normally go into a season compared to what this last year was like?
Yeah, it's a lot different. A normal spring season, we're kind of using that as preparation for the fall. Typically we bring in early enrollees that are able to play in those spring games, and so we're able to work on things and get them integrated in with the group. Unfortunately, because of the COVID year last year, they did not allow early enrollees to play in spring games. So we had 5 of them on campus, but they couldn't play in any games. And so I mentioned to you that we have 11 new freshmen, 5 of which came in the spring, but didn't get to play any games. And so unfortunately, even though they got to train with us, they don't have any game experience under their belt. And so the 5 of them, along with the 6 new ones, with the 3 transfers, we're looking at trying to integrate 14 new players into our group.
All right, Joey, back to you.
Hey, Coach, kind of going off of what Katie just asked you, with essentially half the squad returning and half the team being transfers and freshmen, was being able to return to some sense of normalcy, especially after COVID-19, was that more important than usual in preseason preparations this year?
Yeah, I think that was huge, and that was what was so difficult about last year with all the COVID restrictions is trying to build some cohesiveness. So even though the team was familiar with one another last year, you know, in any sort of team sports, you know, you know, that camaraderie and that you know, that bonding that takes place on and off the field is so incredibly important. And last fall, you know, and we weren't the only team, you know, going through it, but that was pretty difficult for our players. And you know, it's been awesome. You know, I know there is some COVID flare-ups going on right now with the Delta variant and stuff like that, but for the most part, it's been a heck of a lot closer to normal than it was last year. And so for us to be able to, I don't know, eat meals together and do team meetings, things that we weren't able to do a year ago, I think is key, especially when we're introducing so many new players.
Anything else for Coach? Joey, go ahead.
Sorry, Coach. I figured I'd jump at the opportunity. In in the sport of college soccer, you know, that has, you know, to be completely honest, less than ideal coverage on a national scale. You know, how have you been able to create momentum on the recruiting trail and generally speaking within the program itself from a promotional perspective?
Yeah, you know, thankfully we're able to, I don't know, ride the coattails a little bit of Alabama football and some of the other sports success. I think, you know, Alabama clearly has a brand name around the country and in the, you know, in the sports world, and so you know, that's helpful. And then you know, I think the brand of soccer that we play, I think, has certainly turned some heads. And you know, even though we didn't get results, you know, last year, you know, we had some results the year before that certainly caught the attention of people. And then, as I mentioned, kind of the brand of soccer, some of the players that we're turning out. You know, we mentioned already some of the international success that we've had. Neely Martin is a player that is now playing professionally with the NWSL. She's starting for Racing Louisville, and so I think you know, that type of stuff does not go unnoticed in the youth, you know, soccer game. And you know, I think people are certainly taking notice.
All right, Chris Walsh, you're up next.
Well, so I'm going to try to get this in before my son interrupts us here, so I apologize.
No problem.
Just hearing you talk about the difficulties of last year, the scheduling was just so unusual with the SEC tournament in the first half and all. How tough was that? And then what did you get out of the second half of playing in the spring?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. It was a bizarre. I mean, we showed up to preseason last year. We didn't even know if we were going to have a season, you know, so we were just kind of training and we weren't sure what we were training for. There was no real kind of timeline. And, you know, all of a sudden they threw some games together, and we felt blessed and fortunate that we were one of the few conferences able to compete. You know, unfortunately for us, you know, it just didn't go our way. You know, a variety of reasons why, but things didn't go our way in the fall. The spring for us was different than most springs. We had such a short roster. So what we typically try to do at Alabama is we typically try to get our seniors to graduate in December. You know, that allows them to kind of, if they want to go pro, it allows them to kind of jump into the program in January when the draft is, or when a lot of leagues are starting to get going there. But what ended up happening with us is all of our seniors graduated, many of which graduated with master's degrees. So they all graduated in December. And then the early enrollees that were used to playing with us in the spring, they weren't able to play. And so it left us with a roster of only about 13 or 14 bodies. So for us, the spring was, you know, kind of about just trying to survive, just trying to have enough healthy bodies to play. And certainly those that were healthy got a ton of playing time and a ton of experience. But, you know, we knew we were getting a lot of new faces in. And so unfortunately, you know, didn't help us prepare tactically for what we were going to do this fall, but certainly gave a lot of players game experience.
Could you talk a little bit about tactically what you are going to do this fall, the makeup of the team, what your strengths are?
Yeah, you know, it's we're still learning because we have so many new faces. We're still learning trying to put all the pieces together. But overall, really pleased with what we have. We've got 3 transfers that came in, all of which came from quality programs, and they were contributors to those quality programs. So you've got Brooke Bollinger, a goalkeeper who played at Florida State. I think between her and Mac, it's got to be one of the best kind of goalkeeper tandems in certainly in the league and maybe across the country. If you look at 2 solid goalkeepers, I mean they're both fantastic. And then up front you've got Ashlyn Sorepko, who's coming from University of Virginia. She played 3 years there, scored some goals for them over the years. Was probably kind of their first player off the bench for their squad last year. So she's going to be someone that has experience, winning championships winning and competing for championships at the ACC level, making deep runs in the NCAA tournament. So she's certainly going to add a lot to the team. And then we've got an SEC transfer in Riley Tanner that, similar to Ashlyn, she's competed for championships with South Carolina over the past couple of years and been a key player for them as a left-sided winger. So those 3 add a lot of experience, a lot of quality, and then sprinkle in some of the freshmen that are coming in. You've got some pretty good new faces.